Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette syndrome. So I know back to school is starting up, and with the whole COVID situation, it's gonna look a little bit different this year, but I thought I would help you guys if you're going back to school, whether you're in elementary, junior high, high school, college, whatever age you are. I thought I would make a list of tips and tricks to help you if you are going into school this year with Tourette syndrome. So I'm in university now, and when I was in grade school, I had a really tough time with my Tourette syndrome and I didn't do what I should have done. And so I'm going to tell you guys the things that I didn't do, which you definitely should do if you're dealing with Tourette syndrome in a school environment. The number one thing that you absolutely should do when you're going back to school is to make sure your school knows about your Tourette syndrome, and do not be afraid of telling people about your Tourette's and your tics. This is something that I didn't do, and as a result, I didn't get the right accommodations or the resources that I needed as a student. I really struggled in school, and I didn't nearly get the full education experience that I should have. So please, if you're out there, do not be afraid to tell people about your Tourette syndrome. And there are a few ways to do this. I would definitely recommend talking to your teachers, even maybe your principal, about your Tourette syndrome diagnosis, and to make sure they're aware if you have an IEP or an IPP or a 504 plan. Make sure that your IPPs, your IEPs, or your 504 plans, if you have any of those, are known about by your school and your teachers, because I guarantee you these will definitely help you. If you don't have one and you'd like one, I would definitely recommend talking to your doctor, your psychiatrist, your neurologist, whoever helps you and who diagnosed you with Tourette syndrome. Talking to your teachers or your principal or your counselors can allow you guys to get accommodations or resources that you need to help you get through the school day. These could be anything from getting exam accommodations, so like maybe writing an exam in a separate classroom from your other students, or perhaps letting your teacher know that sometimes when you have a lot of tics or you're feeling really overwhelmed, that you might have to leave the classroom for 5 minutes and just kind of walk around the school and let your tics out in a comfortable way. Personally, I didn't let anyone know in elementary school or junior high that I had Tourette syndrome, and it was awful. I never got any accommodations or resources, and I only ticked when I was in the bathroom, and it was brutal. So please, 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 if you're going into school with Tourette syndrome, let people know. I guarantee you it'll make it so much easier for you. Another thing that you might want to let teachers know about is that you want comfortable things that make you feel okay in the classroom. Things maybe like a stressor fidget toy or maybe chewing gum to help you distract yourself from your tics. You guys know what works best for you, so definitely talk to your teachers about that, because I guarantee you that'll also help. Now, teachers are not the only people that you're going to deal with in school. You guys know that there are also a variety of different classmates you're going to have to deal with on a daily basis. So I would say, depending on how you feel, definitely make a presentation about Tourette syndrome to your class, because especially if your tics are more on the severe side, it'll make people know what you're doing, and it'll make it a lot easier for people to understand what you're doing. Letting other students know that you have Tourette syndrome is often the best way to approach it, because if you're gonna hide it and suppress all day, like, you're gonna be tired and you're not gonna get the full experience out of your education. So I would say if you make a presentation to let people know, hey, this is something that I have and deal with, and explain to them what tics are, kind of what your tics are, and just different things like that. I believe Tourette.org has a list of like slides you can make for a presentation on Tourette syndrome in your classroom, so check that out. But by talking to your classmates about Tourette syndrome, it'll make it way less awkward for you when you're ticking, and they might even help you get through the day a little bit easier. So I would say definitely do not be afraid to talk to your classmates about Tourette syndrome either. Most students will be understanding, because like why wouldn't they be understanding if you're being so brave and telling them like, hey, I have Tourette syndrome and this is what it is. And also, if your teachers are involved, I guarantee you that it'll be a smoother experience for you. My next tip is to find a trusted adult in the school, so maybe your favorite teacher, a counselor, maybe even the principal, to talk to them about your day or your tics, or if you're just having a bad day and you want to vent to them, find a trusted person at the school that you feel confident enough to be open to them about your needs and kind of what would help you throughout the school day. Sometimes just having someone to talk to be open about Tourette syndrome with is really, really helpful, and I think that if you find someone who you really trust, whether it's, like I said, your teacher or a counselor, counselor, it will really help make your days go smoother. When I was in high school, I had a teacher who I talked to all the time about Tourette syndrome, and I would use her classroom as a place to tick, and she was so supportive, and she really helped me in accepting my disorder, and she was just someone who would listen to me, and I found that that was what I really needed at that time. So if you can find someone that you feel comfortable with, please do that. Find a safe space. So this could be the counselor's office, a certain teacher's classroom, perhaps the library, bathroom stalls. I wouldn't recommend bathroom stalls, but if that's where you're at comfortably, that is okay too. A safe space will make you feel better, and it's a place that you know you can go to if you're having a bad tick day or just a bad day in general. It's awesome to have a safe space. Your safe space can also be a friend who knows about your tics and your Tourette's that can also help you get through the day and who is supportive and non-judgmental. This next tip is very important. Do not feel like you have to suppress your tics for the whole day or at all. When I was in grade school, I would suppress my tics for the whole day, and then I would come home and have tic attacks every single day after school because I didn't want people to see me ticking, and that was the worst way to deal with it. So as a tip, let out your tics. Even if they're disruptive, it'll make you feel better, and you know what you're comfortable with. You know if you let out your tics, if you feel better or if you feel worse. Do what is comfortable for you, but please don't suppress. Another tip that I think is very important is if you're uncomfortable with talking to your classmates in person about Tourette syndrome, maybe make a social media post about it prior to going back to school. Especially if you have friends that you know are going to that school that don't know about your Tourette syndrome and they're friends with you on social media, make a post saying, hey, I have Tourette syndrome and these are my symptoms, these are the resources you can use to learn about it. And this is a great way to practice talking about Tourette syndrome to other people, because if you post about it, it's kind of like not as intense as talking about it in front of a classroom. So I would definitely say make a post if you're comfortable with that and if it is okay with your parents if you're younger. Another point about the presentation in the classroom, if you are going to go that route, get your teacher or your parents or someone to help you with the presentation, because you don't want to be standing at the front of the classroom awkward and ticking and not being confident. You want to make your point clear and you want to say, this is Tourette syndrome, I have it, and this is what I want you guys to do for me. Whether it's ignore me or support me or whatever you want to do, just make people aware of what you need, but get someone's help while you're doing that. Don't go through this alone. My next tip is to make an emergency bag for tic attacks. So just get a little kind of bag to put in your backpack and put in items that you know help you during tic attacks. This could be anything like some kind of calming oil, some fidget toys, maybe gum. For me, I put a back scratcher in, maybe a stuffed animal to hug. Just things that you know help you and will distract you from your tic attacks. Maybe a journal, maybe a coloring book, something that you know helps you. Maybe put in your phone if you want to maybe call your parents or a trusted adult to kind of help you get through the attack. I know that's what I did. Just make sure it's something that works for you. And this can be easily put in your backpack every single day and something that you can rely on. My next tip is if you are being bullied about your Tourette syndrome or about anything in general, talk to someone. I promise you it'll be so much better if you talk to someone about it and you don't hide it, because when I was in grade school I was bullied a lot and I didn't really tell people, and to this day I still struggle with what I went through, and I felt like if I would have talked to a teacher, maybe it would have gotten better for me. And the people that are bullying you are not worth your time, and I promise you it'll get better if you talk to someone, because they can help you put resources into play. My next tip is to please ask for help if you need it, and don't be afraid to ask for additional support. Schools are supposed to be places where you learn and grow in a healthy way, and they're not supposed to be something that scares you or makes you feel less than or worthless. Being uncomfortable in a school environment can literally wreck the school experience for you, and it'll make learning harder, and it just makes everything worse. So make sure you ask for help and don't be afraid to ask for help. If you feel like taking an exam in a separate room would be helpful for you, ask for it. If you feel like walking around the school for maybe 5-10 minutes during class to release tics and tension would help you, ask for it. The worst thing that could happen is people say no and maybe help you find a different coping mechanism for your Tourette syndrome needs. You as a student have the right to get the best education for your needs. And when you get the best education for your needs, especially with dealing with something as hard as Tourette syndrome, your learning will be better, your school results will be better, your relationships will be better, everything will be better if you ask for what you need. School should be a happy place where you learn. And for me, it was not a happy place, and although I did learn, I didn't have a good time there. When I was in elementary school and junior high, I never let people know about my tics, and it was brutal. It was really hard. And I went the full day with suppressing my tics, and it was just not okay. I didn't ask for help until later in high school when I had counselors and different support systems put into place, and I would highly recommend it. I wish I would have had that throughout my whole schooling experience, because personally I didn't like school, and it was mainly because I didn't get the resources that I was deserving of. I would tick in bathrooms, and although some people think that's a good place to be, I don't recommend it because it makes you feel so isolated, and bathrooms are meant for not ticking. They're not meant for negative places, you know? It's meant for, you know what it's meant for. And so find a place that you're comfortable with to tick. Find friends that you know you can rely on. If you can't find friends, find a teacher or a trusted adult that you can talk to. Just find resources for yourself, and don't be afraid to tick or show your Tourette syndrome to other people, because it's a part of you and you should not be ashamed of it. So as a recap, you should definitely talk to people about your Tourette syndrome in your school to make sure that you have the appropriate resources put into place, because if you don't, it's going to be really hard. And I'm not even going to lie about that. If you don't have the right resources in place, school isn't going to be fun for you. It's going to be hard, and you want to have the best schooling experience you possibly can get, because school is so important. Learning is so important. It is a lifelong skill that you need to have, so make sure it's more comfortable for you. Talk to people about your Tourette syndrome. Do not be ashamed, and use trial and error to find what works for you. Because for me, it took years to find out that, hey, maybe a back scratcher would help me with my back tics, you know? It just takes time to figure out what works for you and for your tics. So take that time, but don't be afraid to ask for help and for advice. So those are my main tips for going back to school with Tourette syndrome. I really hope it helped you, and if you are going back to school, it will be okay, I promise. If you use these tips, I guarantee you school will be more bearable for you, and it'll just be a better experience overall. I want to thank you guys for staying tuned to my channel and watching my videos, because it means the world to me. My goal of the channel is to break the stigma surrounding Tourette syndrome, as well as provide education and raise awareness to people out there who may not know about it. So if you want to stay tuned to that, please subscribe to my channel, because I want to educate you guys and I want to make you guys aware of something that so many people have to go through. Tics are common, whether you know it or not, they're common, and you are not alone out there. I would also love it if you would give this video a thumbs up if any of this advice was good for you, and leave a comment down below saying hi, telling me what you want to see in future videos, or letting me know if you're excited to go back to school or not, because I'm really not. That's just the simple truth. It's an adventure every day. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day, and good luck at school.